Please, just stay a little longer. They've never smiled like that before. Grayson Whitmore stood in the doorway of his penthouse office, watching something impossible. His 3-year-old twin daughters, Ivy and Willow, sat cross-legged on the marble floor beside the janitor's cart, giggling. Actually giggling. The woman kneeling with them wore a faded uniform and had gentle hands that moved through the girls' tangled hair like she'd done it 1,000 times. Her name was Marlo Hayes, 26, single mother, night shift janitor. She'd been working in his building for 2 months, invisible like all the others, until night. "I'm sorry, Mr. Whitmore," Marlo said softly, not looking up. "I heard crying from your office. The door was open. I couldn't walk past." Grayson's jaw tightened. 17 nannies in 2 years. 17 professionals who'd quit or been fired. Some lasted weeks. One lasted 4 hours. The twins had been labeled unmanageable by every agency in the city. Screaming, biting, refusing food, sleep, affection. His daughters had become tiny tornadoes of grief, and he didn't know how to reach them anymore. Their mother, Vanessa, had died when they were 18 months old. Brain aneurysm. Sudden. Final. Grayson had poured himself into work because it was the only thing that still made sense. But his daughters? They'd stopped making sense to everyone. Except, apparently, to the janitor. "What did you do?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Marlo finally looked up. Her eyes were kind, tired. "I told them about my daughter, Presley. She's 4. I told them how she used to cry every night after her dad left us, how I'd sit with her and braid her hair until she felt safe enough to sleep." She paused, brushing a strand from Ivy's cheek. "I think they just wanted someone to sit with them, without expecting anything back." Grayson's chest cracked. 3 weeks later. It started as a desperate experiment. Grayson offered Marlo a deal. Come to the penthouse for 2 hours after her shift just to help settle the twins. He'd triple her pay. She hesitated, worrying about Presley, but her neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, offered to watch the little girl. "I can't promise miracles," she warned him. "I'm not asking for miracles," Grayson replied quietly. "I'm asking for what you did that night. Just be with them." What happened over the next months was not a miracle. It was something slower, deeper. Marlo didn't try to fix the twins. She sat on the floor and colored with them. She brought Presley some nights, and the 3 little girls formed a tentative triangle of curiosity. She sang lullabies her grandmother taught her. She never raised her voice, even when Willow threw a bowl of pasta at the wall. "It's okay to be angry," Marlo whispered, holding the sobbing child. "Your mama's not here, and that's not fair. It's okay." Grayson watched from doorways, from hallways. He watched Marlo handle his daughters with a patience he'd forgotten existed. He watched Ivy, silent, withdrawn Ivy, whisper secrets into Marlo's ear. He watched Willow, the fighter, slowly soften. And he watched Marlo herself, the way she never complained about exhaustion, the way she brought peanut butter sandwiches in Tupperware because she couldn't afford the catered meals his chef offered, the way she looked at his daughters like they were made of something precious. One evening he found her crying in the hallway. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, wiping her face. Presley's been asking why we can't live somewhere with heat that works. And I'm trying so hard, but—" "Marlo," his voice was low, careful. "Let me help." "No," she shook her head firmly. "I'm not a charity case." "I know," he said, "but you've given my daughter something no amount of money could buy. Let me give something back." She looked at him for a long moment. "What they needed wasn't something money could buy, Mr. Whitmore. It was time, attention, Someone who saw them as people, not problems. He nodded slowly. You're right, and I've been failing them. You haven't been failing, Marlowe said gently. You've been drowning. There's a difference. 6 months in. The transformation was not dramatic. It was cumulative. Small moments building into something undeniable. Ivy started speaking in full sentences again. Willow stopped biting. They began sleeping through the night. They asked for Marlowe every evening like clockwork, and when she arrived, the penthouse felt less like a museum and more like a home. Grayson found himself staying in the living room instead of his office, watching Marlowe teach the girls to make paper cranes, listening to her stories about growing up in a town so small everyone knew your name. Why did you move to the city? He asked one night after the girls were asleep. Marlowe stared into her tea. My Presley's father. He wasn't kind. I thought distance would keep us safe. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. I wanted her to grow up somewhere she could be anything, do anything. You're a remarkable mother. She smiled sadly. I'm a janitor who can barely pay rent. You're someone who sees people, really sees them. That's rarer than you think. Something shifted between them in that moment. Not romance, not yet, but recognition. Two people who'd been carrying too much, suddenly realizing they didn't have to carry it alone. 9 months in, Grayson made a decision. He offered Marlowe a full-time position, not as a nanny, but as a family coordinator. Real salary, benefits, an apartment in a building he owned, no rent. She could bring Presley. The girls could grow up together. Why? Why would you do this? Marlowe asked, tears streaming down her face. Because you gave my daughters their childhood back. Because you never asked for anything in return. Because... He paused. Because I remind you that kindness isn't a transaction. It's a choice. Marlowe looked at him, this man who'd been so lost in his grief that he'd forgotten how to see his own children, who was now standing in front of her, not as a CEO, but as a father trying to do better. I'll accept on one condition. You spend 1 hour every evening with them. No phone, no emails, just you and them. He nodded. Deal. 1 year later, the penthouse sounded different now. Laughter, running feet, Presley's voice shouting, "Wait for me!" as the twins raced down the hallway. Grayson sat at the kitchen table helping Ivy with a puzzle. Marlowe stood at the counter teaching Willow how to crack eggs. It was ordinary, beautifully, perfectly ordinary. "Mr. Whitmore?" Marlowe said suddenly. "Grayson," he corrected gently. "Please." "Grayson, I just wanted to say thank you for seeing us, for letting us be part of this." He looked at her, this woman who'd walked into his life with nothing but a janitor's cart and a heart big enough to hold 4 broken people together. "You saved us, Marlowe," he said quietly. "All of us." "Ivy, will you read us a story tonight?" "Always, sweetheart," Marlowe whispered, her eyes bright with tears. Grayson watched his daughters lean into this woman who taught them it was safe to love again, who taught him that healing wasn't about fixing what was broken. It was about sitting with it, holding it gently until it remembered how to grow. "You know what I've learned?" Grayson said softly. "The people who change your life rarely arrive with credentials. They arrive with kindness, and that makes all the difference." Marlowe smiled, reaching across to squeeze his hand. "All any of us really need is someone willing to stay." And they did, not as a fairy tale, but as something better. As a family built on acceptance, patience, and the quiet revolution of being truly seen. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, subscribe, and comment.